Another day and yet more evidence that legacy automakers are crumbling. It's happening very quickly. I don't believe the media are accurately reporting just how quickly it is really happening. The German media are a little bit different. I mean, the American media and the Australian media, they're all pretending this isn't actually happening. Everything's going to be business as usual, but it's not business as usual. That is for damn sure. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. Great to have you with us. If you'd like to become a YouTube member, you can get access to some of our videos that are just exclusively for YouTube members. I'll put a link in the description. I've got to say that does help me as well to produce a lot of videos, and I appreciate your support. General Motors is closing a plant in China as part of its so-called restructuring. Last year, General Motors lost billions of dollars in China, and not just lost billions of dollars, they did lose a lot of money on sales, but they also lost a lot of money restructuring the company, writing off assets for many years now. Investors, so-called experts, you've got major investment houses. Honestly, I've actually received emails from some of them, and I haven't shared them with you because I think, it would be mean to them to do this. Some of the stuff they say is really quite insane. Some of them are starting to question their own beliefs now. Now, we're talking about hedge funds. I can promise you, I've received emails from hedge funds saying, what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on that? I'm thinking, you're asking me? And I wonder if they're asking me because they're now questioning their ways of valuing companies. Traditionally, they've done this, right? They've said, okay, Toyota have this factory, it's producing this many cars, it's this much floor space, it's got all these robots in there, it's got this much land area, therefore it's worth $350 million. No, hang on, no, that's not fair. They're going to improve their sales next year. It's worth $500 million. Yeah, okay. Then what happens? I'm probably underestimating their numbers, by the way. Then what happens is a few years later, quietly, whoever it is sold the factory. Nissan sold it off to Chery, or Hyundai sold off their new factory in China. That factory, by the way, that Hyundai sold in China, it cost them, I believe, $1.2 to $1.4 billion US dollars to manufacture. They sold it for, I think, $280 million a couple of years later. We're talking a brand new factory. You can see what I mean here. These assets are worth pennies on the dollar. So Nissan, General Motors, numerous car manufacturers closing down these factories. No one blinks an eye. But before these factories are closed down, all these fans of these brands are like, the Electric Viking, he's just a shill for Volkswagen. He's just talking crap because these companies, their book value is in the billions of dollars. They have assets, and if they want to tomorrow, they can build millions of new cars, and they can transform their companies. And I promise you, they're not going to get in and do these joint ventures with Chinese car companies to save their bacon. They're never going to invest in XPeng, and they're never going to invest in SAIC, a Chinese government-owned company, in order to help them fix their software. They're not going to buy Chinese companies and remove manufacturing from Germany. None of that will happen. All these factories are worth billions of dollars. This is the status quo. This is what you should be believing. I'll move on. General Motors is closing a plant this month in the northeastern Chinese city of Shenyang as part of the US automakers restructuring in China. That's a very nice way of putting it, isn't it? Of course, this is a result of General Motors massively declining fortunes, declining sales, declining revenues in China. The plant makes Buick GL8 minivans and Chevrolet Tracker SUVs for the China market. The source has confirmed that they must speak on condition of anonymity because this shouldn't be public information. Should not be public information. General Motors should be making this very public. If Tesla was closing down its Fremont factory or something like that, this would be public news. It would be, but we're finding out this information through a source who spoke on condition of anonymity. It's all very weird. Factories like this, surely are worth hundreds of millions. Why would you shut it down, right? Especially it's in China. I mean, surely General Motors would want to produce more vehicles in China. It's cheaper to make them in China, right? And they can just ship them around the world from China. Well, guess what? It makes internal combustion cars. The Chinese companies make better ones. What's the point in keeping it open? It's making a loss. Doesn't make sense, does it? General Motors is restructuring its business in China, where domestic manufacturers, backed by government subsidies, have taken over the market. backed by government subsidies. Now, General Motors is also backed by government subsidies in China. They've received a lot of them. They have joint venture partnerships basically with the Chinese government. I mean, who do you think they're in bed with? SAIC. Who owns SAIC Motors? The Chinese government owns them, right? Reuters is presenting this as though the only reason General Motors is basically screwed in China is because, it's just because these other companies have received subsidies. That's the reason. No, it's not. It's because General Motors, Nissan, and all these other brands in China sat on their asses and were lazy. The gravy train was eventually going to run out. It was eventually going to stop flowing, and it is. You can't justify that by saying our competitors got subsidies and we didn't, because it isn't true. In the fourth quarter, the Detroit automaker reported $4 billion in restructuring charges in China, which included plant closures. General Motors reported positive equity income in China in the fourth quarter before restructuring costs. Now, those plant closures did not include this factory. So at the time, if you go back to my video on it, I said there'll be another factory closing down, or numerous factories closing down. This is just the tip of the iceberg. It's the beginning, right? This is another one, in addition to what they already wrote off last year. At an automotive conference in New York last week, General Motors CEO Mary Barra said the automaker's future in China, the world's largest auto market, would focus on Cadillac, Buick, and its premium import business. It's not news to anyone. That's all what they've been doing for years. Those are vehicles that are very desirable for certain Chinese consumers. Guys, Buick is the car. You buy a Buick in China if you can't buy anything else. It's like buying a Nissan Sentra. You buy a Buick or a Nissan Sentra, or a Volkswagen Levita, right? If you're just getting by, it's not a status symbol. It's not a desirable cars. Buick is not considered a premium brand in China. It's not. I mean, that's not where they position themselves. It's actually a cheap company. It's a cheap brand. So I don't know why General Motors thinks she's hoodwinking investors. Surely they'd know this information. She says, anyway, Mary Barra goes on to say, we can bring it in and have a very successful business. So Mary Barra is trying to convince investors that in spite of the fact they're losing billions of dollars, shutting factories all over the place, sales are going down, that these are vehicles that are very desirable for certain Chinese consumers that we can bring in and have a very successful business. Bring in where? I don't know what she's talking about. None of this makes any sense to me. Mary doesn't make any sense to me at all. Inside EVs, though, says she's person of the year. So clearly I'm missing something, and I've just got absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. You should disregard everything in this video. I'm clearly clueless. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments. Exxon Mobil has just appointed the president of General Motors, or at least the former president of General Motors, to become the head of this enormous global oil company. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. Great to have you with us. Isn't this kind of ironic here that a car company who says it's focusing on electric cars, its former president has left to run Exxon Mobil.